Japanese motorcycle makers have always chased speed, power, and the thrill of the ride. But sometimes in trying to go faster and feel more exciting, they built bikes that were hard to control and even claimed lives. These bikes gave riders an amazing rush, but only if they had the skill to handle them. Today, we'll look at 12 of these powerful and risky motorcycles from Japan. Each one became known for being wild, hard to ride, or even scary. 1. Kawasaki H1 Mach 3500, the original death machine. In the late 1960s, Kawasaki made the H1 Mach 3500. It had a two-stroke, triple-cylinder engine built for raw speed. Its 498 cubic centimeter engine made about 60 horsepower and 37 pound-feet of torque, which was a lot back then. The biggest issue? The way the power came on. Instead of building up slowly, the engine gave a huge boost all at once, usually at higher revolutions per minute. This sudden hit of power could lift the front wheel or make the back wheel lose grip, especially dangerous for riders used to smoother bikes. Riders needed to stay focused every second. Its frame and suspension weren't strong enough for all that power. The bike flexed during fast rides and felt shaky, especially in corners. It had drum brakes front and back, normal for the time, but not great for a bike that could hit over 115 miles per hour. At just 384 pounds, the bike was light. But with that engine and weak handling, taking a turn at high speed took serious skill. Fuel use was about 26 miles per gallon, and the small tank meant lots of stops if you rode it hard. Still, people didn't buy this for comfort. They wanted that wild speed. It earned its name, the original death machine, by being super fast but tough to control. It's still remembered for how thrilling and risky it was. 2. Suzuki TM400 Cyclone, the bone breaker. In the early 1970s, motocross was exploding in popularity, and Suzuki released the TM400 Cyclone. It looked good on paper, a two-stroke, single-cylinder dirt bike with a 496 cubic centimeter engine making 40 horsepower. But in real life, it was scary. The TM400 was dangerous because its power was hard to control. Riders said it felt like an on-off switch. One moment the bike was slow, then it suddenly exploded with power. That made it hard to ride on dirt or mud, where grip is already tricky. Staying in control on a bumpy track was a real challenge. It only weighed about 220 pounds, which made it feel light, but the rear suspension often bottomed out after jumps, and the frame would flex too much. This made the bike unstable and hard to steer. It had drum brakes, which were common, but not strong enough for a bike with this kind of power. The suspension didn't rebound well, so after landing jumps, the bike would bounce around and could throw riders off. Riders called it the bone breaker for a reason. It was cheap at around $1,200, but the real price was often injuries. Many riders feared it, and for good reason. 3. Honda CX500 Turbo, the turbocharged surprise. In the early 1980s, Honda wanted to try something bold, turbocharging a motorcycle. The CX500 Turbo was the first mass-produced turbo bike. It had a 498 cubic centimeter V-twin engine and made about 82 horsepower and 56 pound-feet of torque using a turbocharger. The main issue was turbo lag. When riders hit the throttle, nothing happened at first. Then suddenly all the power kicked in at once. This boost could lift the front wheel or break the rear tire's grip, especially in a turn. It made the ride feel tense and hard to predict. The CX500 Turbo was also heavy, 572 pounds with fuel. It had a shaft drive and soft suspension like a cruiser, not a sport bike. The frame couldn't always handle the sudden rush of turbo power. Brakes were okay with discs front and back, but when the power hit hard, stopping the bike quickly wasn't always easy. It could hit 125 miles per hour and cost about $4,998 back then. Riders loved the futuristic look and fast speed, but only if they could handle its wild turbo punch. It was a bike full of surprises, and not all of them good. 4. Suzuki TL1000S, the wobbly V-twin. In the late 1990s, Suzuki wanted to take on Ducati with its own V-twin sport bike. They built the TL1000S, a strong and stylish machine. It had a 1,096 cubic centimeter engine with 125 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque. It looked fast and powerful, and it was, but it had a major flaw. The problem was the rear suspension. Instead of a normal shock, it used a rotary-style damper to save space. but this damper overheated fast and stopped working right. That made the back of the bike unstable, especially in corners. This could lead to tank slappers, violent handlebar shakes that could throw a rider off. The bike weighed about 470 pounds, and even expert riders struggled when the rear end acted up. Suzuki added a steering damper to fix the issue, but the damage to its reputation was done. It got about 37 miles per gallon and sold for around $8,900. But riders often found themselves fighting the bike more than enjoying it. It looked great, but that unstable suspension made it dangerous when pushed. Number 5. Kawasaki H2 Mach 4750, the Widowmaker. In the early 1970s, Kawasaki made the H2 Mach 4750, a bike with more power and danger than most had seen. It had a 743 cubic centimeter two-stroke engine with 74 horsepower and 57 pound-feet of torque. That might not sound huge now, but back then, it was a beast. The power came on hard and fast, often lifting the front wheel without warning. Its 454-pound frame wasn't strong enough to handle that kind of force. The suspension was basic, and the frame flexed in corners, making handling very tricky. The brakes? One small disc up front and a drum in the back, not nearly enough to stop a bike that could hit over 120 miles per hour. Riders would rush into turns too fast and not be able to stop in time. It sold for about $1,495, which made it very tempting. But many who rode it ended up in crashes. The H2 became known as the Widowmaker, a bike so wild and fast, only the brave or lucky made it out without harm. 6. Yamaha VMax Original, the drag racer on the street. In 1985, Yamaha launched the VMax, a power cruiser built for straight-line speed. It had a massive 1,198 cubic centimeter V4 engine with Yamaha's famous V-Boost system. That helped it make 145 horsepower and 90 pound-feet of torque. Super bike numbers on a heavy cruiser. The VMax was fast, really fast, but its frame and suspension weren't made for sharp turns or high-speed corners. It weighed about 635 pounds, and the back shocks struggled to keep up. The front forks also didn't offer enough support in quick turns. Brakes were okay, discs front and rear, but stopping that much bike after a hard run wasn't easy. It got about 32 miles per gallon and had a small tank, so fuel stops were frequent. It cost around $11,900 in its later years. The VMax looked mean and felt powerful, but it needed a strong, skilled rider to control all that speed. 7. Kawasaki Ninja H2R, the untamed speed demon. In 2015, Kawasaki decided to show the world what extreme truly meant by creating a motorcycle so fast, they didn't even bother trying to make it street legal. This beast featured a 998 cubic centimeter engine boosted by a factory-installed supercharger, unleashing an astounding 310 horsepower and 115 pound-feet of torque. Its sole purpose was to obliterate speed records, capable of exceeding 240 miles per hour. This motorcycle wasn't intended for your average Sunday rider. It came without essential road gear like lights, mirrors, or a license plate holder, strictly designed for professional racers on closed tracks. Its aerospace-designed aerodynamic winglets were not merely cosmetic. They were critical for generating downforce at unimaginable speeds to keep it from taking flight. The acceleration was simply mind-bending, rocketing from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2.5 seconds. Kawasaki themselves issued explicit warnings that the H2R was for closed-course operation by expert riders only, fully acknowledging its immense and potentially overwhelming performance envelope. Even with a suite of advanced electronic safety systems, the smallest miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. 8. Yamaha RZ500, the street-legal Grand Prix terror. Between 1984 and 1986, Yamaha produced a motorcycle that was essentially a street-legal Grand Prix race bike, the RZ500. It was powered by a complex 500 cubic centimeter two-stroke V4 engine, delivering 88 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. This machine was incredibly light, tipping the scales at just over 400 pounds, and as a result, it was blisteringly fast for its time. The RZ500's engine was a detuned but very close relative of Yamaha's YZR500 Grand Prix racing engine, bringing an unparalleled level of race-bred complexity and character to public roads. The engine was notoriously peaky, meaning its substantial power was concentrated high in the revolutions per minute range, hitting all at once. One moment the bike could be relatively calm, and the next it would explode forward with violent acceleration. If a rider wasn't fully prepared, The front wheel could unexpectedly lift, or the rear tire could break traction, even when traveling in a straight line. Its unique twin-crank V4 engine layout contributed to its compact dimensions, but also to its intricate and demanding mechanical nature. While its frame and suspension were considered advanced for the mid-1980s, they often struggled to cope with the engine's sudden and ferocious bursts of speed. The brakes were adequate by the standards of the era, but lacked modern safety enhancements like an anti-lock braking system. Riding the RZ500 was frequently compared to taming a wild animal, demanding constant focus and precise inputs. Now let's look at a Suzuki that was light, fast, and infamously unstable. 9. Suzuki GSXR750 SRAD, the featherweight contender with a punch. In the late 1990s, Suzuki introduced a race-inspired street bike that quickly became legendary, the GSXR750 SRAD. This machine was equipped with a 748 cubic centimeter engine, producing a potent 134 horsepower and 66 pound-feet of torque. What made it truly stand out was its incredibly light weight, coming in at only about 465 pounds. The SRAD in its name stood for Suzuki Ram Air Direct, a system meticulously designed to force more air into the engine as speed increased, effectively boosting power output at higher velocities. This combination of low weight and high power resulted in breathtaking acceleration and agility. However, this focus on lightness also contributed to reduced stability. Small rider movements, abrupt throttle inputs, or uneven road surfaces could provoke alarming headshake or even violent tank slappers, where the handlebars would oscillate uncontrollably from side to side. Its aggressive chassis geometry, while beneficial for quick direction changes on a smooth racetrack, significantly contributed to its nervous and twitchy feel on less than perfect public roads. The frame was engineered to be strong, yet lightweight, but this balance sometimes compromised the bike's composure, making it feel particularly reactive. While the suspension was adjustable and the brakes were solid for their time, they couldn't entirely overcome the bike's inherent tendency towards instability when pushed to its limits at high speeds. Priced at $8,399, it was relatively affordable, particularly for younger, thrill-seeking riders. But this accessibility also made it potentially lethal for those lacking the requisite experience or respect for its capabilities. Next, a Honda that promised technological advancement but delivered a critical, hidden flaw. 10. Honda VF750F Interceptor, the cam killer surprise. In the mid-1980s, Honda aimed to showcase its new V4 engine technology with the introduction of the VF750F Interceptor. It presented a sleek appearance, produced a smooth V4 sound, and offered 76 horsepower with 48 pound-feet of torque from its 750 cubic centimeter engine. With a price tag of $4,298, it initially seemed like a technologically advanced and sensible purchase. However, a significant problem lurked within the engine. Its lubrication system proved inadequate, especially at high engine speeds, leading to premature and excessive wear of the camshafts, the crucial components responsible for actuating the engine's valves. This persistent issue earned the bike the unfortunate nickname Cam Killer. Honda did eventually revise the engine design in subsequent models, most notably the VFR 750, to specifically address these serious and damaging lubrication problems. Even more alarmingly, this camshaft problem could cause the engine to suddenly seize or lock up while riding. Imagine this happening during an overtaking maneuver on the highway or while leaned over in a turn. It made the VF 750F not just expensive to repair, but also dangerously unpredictable. At 594 pounds, it was also a relatively heavy motorcycle for its class. The suspension was tuned more for comfortable street riding rather than aggressive cornering, feeling soft when pushed hard. Braking performance was considered adequate for general use, but could feel insufficient during spirited riding. Let's revisit a Yamaha that laid the groundwork for superbikes to come, packing monstrous power for its day. 11. Yamaha FZR1000, the pre-R1 powerhouse. Before Yamaha introduced the iconic R1, they had the formidable FZR1000. This motorcycle emerged in the late 1980s and early 1990s, boasting a 998 cubic centimeter engine that produced an impressive 145 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque. These were substantial power figures, highly competitive even by later standards. The FZR1000 prominently featured Yamaha's innovative Exup exhaust valve system, a clever piece of technology designed to broaden the power band by optimizing exhaust gas flow at different engine speeds, enhancing both low-end grunt and top-end rush. It was undeniably one of the fastest motorcycles available at the time. However, managing this prodigious speed came with its own set of challenges. Its aluminum Delta box frame was a revolutionary design, offering significantly greater rigidity than traditional steel frames, yet it was still thoroughly tested by the engine's immense output. At high speeds, encountering a bump mid-corner could unsettle the bike, potentially inducing a weave or shake. Many owners and tuners found that upgrading the stock suspension components was often the first and most beneficial modification to improve its high-speed composure and overall handling predictability. Weighing around 590 pounds, the FZR1000 required excellent suspension and brakes to keep its power in check. However, the suspension technology of the era, while advanced, lacked the fine-tuned adjustability of modern systems. And the brakes, though powerful, could experience fade under the extreme stress of repeatedly slowing such a fast and heavy machine. Finally, a big Suzuki superbike from the turn of the decade that was fast, but sometimes frightening. 12. Suzuki GSXR100, the early superbike challenge. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Suzuki's entry in the large-capacity superbike class, which aligns with the description of a GSXR1000 with a 1,000 cubic centimeter engine making 145 horsepower and 85 pound-feet of torque, was more accurately the GSXR1100. The first GSXR1000 model designation appeared in 2001. This machine was undeniably fast. On paper, with its powerful engine, it appeared to be the ideal street racer for experienced enthusiasts. These early GSXR1100 models were renowned for their oil-cooled engines, a distinctive Suzuki engineering approach that aimed to save weight and complexity compared to conventional liquid cooling systems. However, there was a significant challenge. The bike's frame, while an advanced aluminum alloy construction for its time, wasn't always perceived as being stiff enough for the engine's massive output. When ridden at very high speeds or when encountering bumps, particularly mid-corner, the handlebars could begin to shake alarmingly. This phenomenon, known as head shake, could cause the entire motorcycle to feel unstable and unpredictable, especially during hard cornering or aggressive acceleration. Some riders in period reviews even reported a somewhat flexible or hinged feeling from the chassis when the bike was pushed to its absolute limits. Its suspension could also struggle when placed under extreme pressure. The front forks and rear shock absorber couldn't always maintain optimal tire contact with the road surface, and the brakes, while generally adequate for normal street riding, could exhibit fade under the stress of repeated hard applications. Got a scarier one in mind? Drop it below, hit like, and subscribe so you never ride blind again.